So before we proceed fixing this error, I just want to talk to you about something. Now, I do understand that we are getting error after error, and it can seem frustrating, especially when you're trying to learn something new. But please hang in there because debugging these errors will help us become a better developer. And when we implement Next.js on our own, we will know exactly what to do. Because Next.js takes care of a lot of stuff in the background, a small thing missing would lead to an error that we might not necessarily know how to fix. So, thanks for being patient on this one, but I promise we will solve all these errors together and you will have a much better experience, and I will also know how to debug your Next.js application as well. Alright, enough talk. Let's go ahead and fix this error. So this error says the fallback key must be returned from getStaticPaths. And it says that we expected paths and fallback boolean. So let's go ahead and take a look at it in the documentation. Now, a fallback key is something that is required by getStaticPaths. So for Next.js to know which paths to pre-render, we need to tell Next.js that, hey, please pre-render paths 0 and 1. But since coffee store page right here is a dynamic page, so this value could be anything. It could be 10,000, 5,000, 4, whatever. You get the idea. So Next.js needs to know what can it do if it cannot pre-render that specific page. So for example, in our coffeestore.json, if a user goes to ID 3 or ID 2, which is not there in this, what should Next.js do instead? Fallback is a way to tell Next.js that. So if we add fallback is false, anytime a user goes to a page where Next.js cannot find its content, for example, if Next.js cannot find right here in coffee store data, the page itself, the value in the JSON file, then it's going to return a 404 page, that is page not found page. So let's go with fallback is false, and then we will take a look at what fallbacks is true does. So here we can say that fallback is false. Alright, now that we have done that, let's check it out. And as it refreshes, sweet, there you go. There are no errors and it seems to be working, but obviously it's not giving us any content right here because we have not implemented getStaticProps yet. So let's do that. Now in getStaticProps, even though we added 0 as an ID, it still couldn't find it. So why is that? Why couldn't it find it? So let's console log the coffee store as a prop. But first we need to pass it in. So we can say props right here. And over here we can say console log props. So let's take a look at that in the browser. Let's open up our DevTools. And in our DevTools, we can see props have been printed. And if we open it up, both the coffee stores are returned to us, which is what we want. Oops, it's the wrong page. So let's clear it. Let's go to our dynamic page. And we can see that there is a prop. And it is getting returned, but we are not showing it on the page. So let's do that. So here we can say that, let's add a paragraph tag and we can say that props, and what is it that we called it again? Not coffee store. And let's print the address itself and the name. So let's do props.coffeestore.address. And similarly, copying this entire object again, copying this entire line again, we can say props.coffee at coffeestore.name. All right, now let's go ahead and check it out. And there you go. You can see that Strangelove Coffee has been returned over here, has been rendered here. So now if I go back and go to Dark Horse Coffee, oh no, it still returns Strangelove Coffee. And it is because we have not implemented getStaticProps yet. And instead we have returned the 0th ID. So let's go ahead and try to find what this ID is. So like we said, for params would give us the ID. So let's console log params. And we can go to our terminal and check out what params are. Scrolling all the way down and refreshing the page, but let's clear the terminal first. Now let's refresh the page. And let's head over to the terminal, and you can see that params has a ID of 1. So we can just access params.id right here. So here we can say params.id and hit save. So let's go ahead and check it out. Now if you refresh again, oh no, what now? It says that error serializing coffee store returned from getStaticProps, and the reason is undefined cannot be serialized. So let's take a look. Now if find cannot find an object, then it's going to return undefined. So let's go ahead and understand why it's returning undefined. And it's because it cannot find the matching ID. So one thing to take a look at is, remember, params.id that got printed on the page right here is a string. And the value from the JSON file is not a string. So let's go ahead and convert this into a string so we can compare. So we can say .toString, just like that. And this will convert a numeric value to a string value. Now let's try it out again. If you refresh the page, and you can see Dark Horse Coffee there. Beautiful. So finally it's working. Our application is connected. Congrats. Beautiful. So let's go back to home and let's check out Strangelove Coffee. And Strangelove Coffee also works. This is awesome. So our pages are now properly connected. So to wrap it up, what we essentially did was, in getStaticProps, we essentially did a find on coffeestore.json, and we basically asked params from getStaticProps to tell us that, hey, tell me what's the ID that the user is currently at, and we returned that specific object. And in getStaticPaths, we returned a list of objects to Next.js. So now that we have hooked up our application, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when we try to enter a ID that does not exist. I'll see you in the next one.